Hi, so today I'm going to work through the AC method. So we have the polynomial 3x squared plus 5x plus 2. Now the first step of the AC method says that we should factor out the greatest common factor. Now what's the greatest common factor of 3, 5, and 2? That's right, it's 1. Now, if the greatest common factor is 1, factoring out a 1 doesn't change this equation. The second step of the AC method says that we want to find two numbers which, when multiplied together, equal our A times our C, where A is the coefficient of the x squared term, so 3 in this case, and C is the number at the end. So in our case, AC is 3 times 2, or 6. Then we want the same two numbers that we find to multiply AC to also add to our B term. Our B term is the coefficient of x, so in this case 5. So we need to find two numbers that multiply to 6 and add to 5. So 6 can be made up of 1 and 6 and 2 and 3. Now 1 and 6 don't add to 5, but 2 and 3 do, so those are our two numbers that we choose. So 2 times 3 is 6, and 2 plus 3 is 5. The next step of the AC method says we want to keep the x squared term and the term at the end. So we're going to bring those down, 3x squared, we're going to bring down plus 2. And then we're going to use the two numbers from part 2 to split the middle term. Now why we're doing this is that we want to find a way to split the middle term so that we can factor by grouping. So 5x is equal to 2x plus 3x. And we're using the numbers that we found in part 2. That's why they have to add to 5. It's because we're going to use these two numbers to split 5. So after we've rewritten 3x squared plus 5x plus 2 into 3x squared plus 2x plus 3x plus 2, what we can do is factor by grouping, since we now have 4 terms. So we're going to ignore these terms over here and just work with the 3x squared plus 2x. So we want to find the greatest common factor between 3x squared and 2x. So 3 and 2, the greatest common factor between those is 1, but they both have an x in them, so x is our greatest common factor. And what we have left after we divide 3x squared by x is 3x. And what we have left when we divide 2x by x is 2. So this factors into x times 3x plus 2. Now over here, we're going to ignore these two terms now and focus on these. We want to find the greatest common factor between 3x and 2. And the greatest common factor between those is 1. So we can factor out a 1, and we have left 3x plus 2. This gives us two remaining terms, x times 3x plus 2 and 1 times 3x plus 2. We want to find the greatest common factor between these two terms. And in this case, since they're both being multiplied by a 3x plus 2, that's the greatest common factor. So we can pull that out. So if you take out a 3x plus 2, what you're left with is an x plus 1. So our factored form is 3x plus 2 times x plus 1. Now if in number 1 our greatest common factor had been something other than 1, we would multiply that on at the end. But when you multiply 1 on at the end, it doesn't change it. So this is an example of AC method. So now that you've seen an example of the AC method, go ahead and try this problem. And here are the steps of the AC method that you can follow along with.